In this installment of Melanated Empire, we're going to be speaking about the Scarab Beetle, why the ancestors saw it fit to include this insect in the neteru, and this insect and how it correlates and corresponds to the Cancer constellation as we know it today. Having said that, let's jump right in. Peace, love and coconut oil family is the young Caribbean god Siamon Ra. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the notifications bell so anytime we have a new video, you can get that fire each and every time. Okay? The Scarab Beetle, otherwise known as the dung beetle, was highly venerated in ancient Egypt in Kemet family. It was known as Khepri or Khepra, right? So I'm sure that the family has come across this Scarab Beetle in a lot of ancient Egyptian artwork in ancient Kemet, right? And we've also come across this in movies. Take for example The Mummy. We have a couple of scenes where the Scarab Beetle is included in the mummification process, try to imply that it was basically responsible for eating human flesh. Have a look right here.
I say. Gents, you should come and have a look at this. What? Whoa! Hold it! Do something, do something! Not that, not that! Oh, Allah. One more. One more.
It's no surprise, family, that Hollywood and the media tries to demonize our culture because that is completely incorrect. So let us bring the truth about this beetle. This Scarab Beetle is what is known as a dung beetle. And a dung beetle, as its name implies, its predominant role is taking care of shit. So the deserts or the savannas, family, especially in Africa, would be a really dirty place if it wasn't for this dung beetle. So as the name implies, it is responsible for taking care or clearing up dung. Okay? Now our ancestors understood life by observing and perceiving nature, family, because we are an extension of nature itself. We are the highest aspect of nature. The spiritual concept in a lot of African spiritual systems is sort of a pantheist, where we do not acknowledge that there is one God, a man in the sky looking at everything you do. We understood the creator as different forces in the universe and forces of nature. So as a result, our ancestors would observe nature to help them understand the life that they're basically living today. So they came across this insect and they were like so amazed at it that they saw it fit to include it in the neteru. Part of that reason, as I said, is basically because this animal took care of dung. Not only that, two fundamental reasons attached to that, family. Not that it would just take care of the dung. It would roll up, some beetles would roll up the dung in a sphere, in a ball, and push it towards the rising sun. The second fundamental reason is that in this dung, family, it would actually lay its eggs in the dung. So when the eggs are hatched, its young would have a direct source of food. Now, due to this beetle's affiliation with the sun, because remember I said it rolls the dung, after it forms it, it rolls the dung towards the rising sun. Because of this affiliation with the sun, Khepri or Khepra, as the beetle is known in ancient Kemet, is one of the forms of Ra. What is Ra? Ra is the sun deity, is the sun god, right? I don't really like to use the word God, because if you use deity, you have a different understanding. The word God is really associated with the Abrahamic religions, because from time you say God, you have a perception of an individual in the sky watching everything you do. But if I say deity, you will understand that it is an aspect of the divine consciousness, okay, and part of the laws of nature or the universe. So it is basically one of the forms of Ra, which is a solar deity in ancient Egypt. So this beetle is a sort of anthropomorphic, zoomorphic representation of this solar deity. Again, the fundamental reason is because it rolls the dung, it uses the sun and rolls the dung towards the rising sun, and uses the sun as its navigation tool, you can say. Therefore, family, Khepri, which is the Scarab Beetle, is known as the god of creation, the god of the movement of the sun, and rebirth, right? So in place of the sun at times, you will actually see the Scarab Beetle, which is Khepri. You will see the Scarab Beetle in place of the sun. Where the sun is supposed to be, you will see the Scarab Beetle. In ancient Kemet, the rising sun is also known as Khepri or Khepra. So because of its link to the sun, we can explain the three major attributes that Khepri is god over. Let us go over them. It is creation, movement of the sun, and rebirth. So if the Scarab Beetle is in relation, right, to the sun, we can understand why it would be the god of creation, because nothing in this third dimension, nothing on this earth was actually created without the sun, family. The sun is the life giver and the keeper of life. We have touched upon this in many videos, whether directly or indirectly, okay? We have four domains. We have the mineral domain, the plant domain, the animal domain, and the human domain, the human kingdom. So the sun is responsible for giving life to all of these four domains, which basically is part of our ecosystem on this planet. So as a result, the sun, you can say, is the lord of creation. And because the Scarab Beetle is one of the forms of Ra, which is the solar deity, which is the sun, would be the god of creation. The second aspect being the movement of the sun. I just explained to you that it rolls the dung, the ball of dung, in the direction of the rising sun. What is also fascinating about that, family, is when the sun is absent, right? Say in the night, for example, and there is no sun, what does the Scarab Beetle do? Does it just lose its way? No. In the absence of the sun, the Scarab Beetle actually uses the moon now to navigate its way, family, where it wants to roll the dung into. And in the absence of the moon, it is the only insect in the animal kingdom that uses the Milky Way for its navigation. And that is just fascinating, family. So it's things like that the ancestors saw and were completely amazed by this very small insect, and be like, you know what, we need to include this insect in the understanding of the divine consciousness and make it a part of the neteru. Not that they worshipped the Scarab Beetle. I want the family to understand this completely. The ancestors never worshipped any beetle taking care of dung, family. It is just an understanding, okay, the concept and the works that this insect did, which is very fundamental, because like I said, if it wasn't for this insect, family, the deserts and the savannas would be a very smelly and shitty place. But this insect took care of the dung, and not only that, it rolled the dung up in a ball, stored its laid its eggs in the dung, so that when its young hatch would have a direct source of food, and it uses the sun to navigate its way, family. The third attribute that Khepri or Khepra, and might I just add, Khepri or Khepra actually means he who is coming into being, or he who is becoming, okay? The third attribute of Khepri is the Lord or God of rebirth, right? In so being that a small percentage of the animals within the animal kingdom can reproduce asexually, and the Scarab Beetle is one of them. So as I mentioned earlier, this Scarab Beetle, when it reproduces asexually, it lays its egg in the sphere of dung. So when the eggs hatch, they have a direct source of food. So ancestors, but just by observing nature, saw all this, understood this, family, and saw it fit to include this insect in the neteru, okay? Now, family, if you remember, it was the Greeks who came into Egypt and tried to be part of this culture, this holy sacred science, okay? Now, in Greek, the Scarab Beetle is known as Scarabus, and from Greek to English, we get the crab, which is the holy symbol of immortality. Why immortality? Because of its third attribute being rebirth. Now, according to the Kemetic horoscope, the Kemetic astrology, as you can see, The time of the Scarab Beetle of Khepri would be between June and July. At that very same time, what we have taken place in ancient Egypt is the inundation of the Nile, wherein the Nile would swell up, family, and we would get more waters within that time. Coincidentally, that is the very same date of the Cancer, the crab constellation. So many would know that the Cancer constellation, being the crab, is associated with the summer solstice, and the crab would be a water sign, okay? And the ruling planet of the Cancer constellation is actually the moon. So how does this correlate with the Scarab Beetle? Remember I said when the sun is absent, the Scarab Beetle actually uses the moon for its navigation, okay? And in being a water sign, the moon is responsible for having an effect on the ebb and the flow of the waters of the earth. The earth basically having 75% water, and so does our body. So as a result, we can see that the Cancer, the crab, is ruled by the moon. It deals with water, but it's also a solar sign associated with the sun, and as a result, so is the Scarab Beetle. And this, family, is basically the understanding and why our ancestors saw it fit to include this insect, this very small insect, in the neteru, and how this insect corresponds with the Cancer constellation as we know it today. It basically is the Cancer constellation. We just know it as a crab, but first and foremost, it was Khepri, the Scarab Beetle. And having said that, family, peace, love, and coconut.